It's another Raw video from your favorite YouTube scout, Draft Raw Authentic. Yes, I am finally here making another video, and like I said, it's a Raw one, so there will be no edits. Now, I had to make this video. I really had to make this video. The reason why I have to make this video is to talk about the value of a first round draft pick. What do I mean when I say the value of a first round draft pick? Okay, draft picks in general, okay? A lot of times we associate the good, excellent players with first round status. And a lot of times, as most scouts do, another thing is that they take potential of a player over production. What I mean when I say that is, in a draft where you could have, hypothetically, you could have a 6'2", 255-pound pass rusher, linebacker, defensive end, just an edge guy, right? And he played 3 years in college. He accumulated, let's say, 28 sacks in those 3 years. That's pretty good. That's production. His last year, let's say, like I said, hypothetically, his last year there, he actually had 14 sacks. So in his first two seasons, he recorded 14 sacks altogether, and then he actually had a 14-sack season in a 13-season game, right? 13-game season. I'm sorry, 13-game season. Then you have a guy, let's say, who's 6'5", 265. 10 pounds heavier, 3 inches taller, right? 6'5", 265, 270. He's played 2 years and literally have only, let's say, 14 sacks career-wise. And this guy had 9 sacks his last year, and in his first year he had, what would that be, 5. And then he had 9. Or better yet, let me do it a different way. 2 years production, 2 sacks his first year, then in his next year he has 7.5. So he has 9.5 sacks altogether as a starter. Let's say he has an accumulate of like 12 sacks, but the last 2 years he was there, he was an actual starter. So his first year, it was a situational guy. Then, so he racked up 7.5, right? 7.5 sacks his last year. So you have these two guys, production-wise. You see the potential of the 6'5", 270 dude. He runs better. He even bends a little bit better. But there's something missing. Maybe it's the learning how to use pass rushing moves. While the other guy's a hard worker, he gets after the quarterback, has a high motor, and, he does his thing. He obviously got the sacks to prove it. Right? So, production over potential. Most GMs will use a top 5 pick on that 6'5", 270 instead of that 6'2", 255. Why do they do that? Why is production lower than potential? Why is potential the higher thing? And it's a mind-boggling, because if I see a certain type of stat, and I don't try to go on stats all the time, but I gotta look at the stats too, because I gotta see if you was productive at least. If I see your stats and it shows productivity, and I see another guy's sacks and it just shows he was just there, this guy works out better at the combine. He just looks physically better. While this guy, he doesn't look as physically imposing, not as physically better, but he's a hard worker and he knows what he's doing. He's already pro ready. But I'm going to choose that potential because history has told me that the 6'5", 270-pound guy is your next Julius Peppers. I know he's bigger than that, but you get what I'm saying. He's your next this. He's your next that. He's your Myles Garrett of the world. He's your Bradley Chubb. He's your Joey Bosa. He's your so on and so on. These are These are the guys that you're looking at. These are like, yeah, this is that defensive end you want. This is that guy. Well, this guy, yeah, we've seen productive guys like that, but we haven't seen it that much. You know what I mean? You know, it's some productive, but are they game changers? You know, you have your James Harrison maybe and stuff like that, but where are game changers at? Here's what I have to say. You cannot value potential over production. And so when it comes to the first round, or it comes to any draft picks in the NFL, I have certain criteria that I look at for just certain positions and players. Like, I have a certain criteria what I look at when I look at wide receivers. I have a certain criteria for running backs. I have a certain criteria for quarterbacks. I have a certain criteria for obviously all the positions are different. But there's certain criteria that I want those guys to meet. And it doesn't have to be stats. It's how you carry it, so how you play the game. And usually those guys turn out to be pretty darn good. That's why I was able to see a guy like a Kevin Byard and say, oh, this guy, he's like a second round pick because his size is going to make him that. Honestly, because he's not a great tackler, or he's not the consistent tackler, he's not that first round, but he's definitely a second round. But he's probably going to get drafted in the fourth. He ends up getting drafted in the third, I think the first pick in the third, by the Tennessee Titans. He's turned out to be one of the best safeties in the league. This is why Darius Leonard, who I was a huge fan of from South Carolina State, for the Colts has become what he has become for them as a rookie. This is why certain players have all of a sudden risen to the top. Stephon Diggs is another player. I would probably one of the only couple of people that would have said Odell Beckham Jr. was going to be the best receiver of his draft class. And rightfully so, he is. So, you know, I look at stuff a different way in a certain, so a lot of times I don't try to put guys in certain categories of they are first round, second round, third round, fourth round. I don't try to do that. And the reason why I don't is because I believe that a good player is a good player. I believe that all of the ones that show production and that has got the actual ability, like the talent, should be the only first round picks. Just because a guy ran a 5-second 40 doesn't mean he's not a first round pick. In terms of like all the other positions, besides offensive lineman, for all the other positions, just because he ran a 5-second 40 doesn't mean he's not a first round pick or he's not a high draft pick. He may not athletically be that great, but he showed the ability to do what he can do in college, and that production holds a lot of weight for me. Now, athleticism do have to put a little bit of athleticism in the part of making your choice. So a defensive end, or that runs a 5-second, or a linebacker or a safety that runs 5 seconds, that's not what you want, obviously, because those type of stuff doesn't hold up as well. We've seen guys like Brandon Spikes, and we've seen Vontaze Burfict kind of hold up in the NFL, but it doesn't happen often. But you want to see how good that player is without those actual combine stats. That's why I don't try to put too much of the combine stats into it. Every year, if people didn't notice, but every year there's been a running back that's ran a 4.6 in the draft that's actually turned out to be a good starting running back in the NFL. Le'Veon Bell is one guy. Kareem Hunt is another guy. I even look at Kenneth Dixon. I think that he's going to eventually start to become that type of guy. He plays for the Baltimore Ravens, running back. If you look at his highlights for the Baltimore Ravens, you'll see what I'm saying. But that's the type of thing. You run a 4.6 as a running back, people kind of write you off. But a lot of these guys, is at least one guy every year that actually turns out to be pretty good. So the point of this video is to kind of get people to think about who your team is going to draft and who's the right player to draft. Not everybody's the right player. Just because certain media scout says this player is a good player doesn't mean that. And here's the last thing I want to leave with before I end this video. When it comes to first round picks, 30% of first round picks do not work out. What do I mean when I say that? 30% of first round picks do not become the player that you think they're going to be. In that 30%, there's three categories that those 30% will fall into. And when I say 30%, it's about 9 to 10 players that get drafted in the first round don't end up being the player you want them to be. The 30% either can't play, they underachieve, or they get hurt. Examples: underachievement. Trent Richardson. One of the biggest underachievers ever. Getting hurt. Kevin White. He hasn't been able to play on the NFL field, so it's hard for him to really show that if he's a good receiver. And literally, guy that just can't play, Danny Watkins, 2011 first round pick for the Philadelphia Eagles, if you don't know who that is. Danny Watkins could not play the game. If I was to name somebody else, Greg Robinson, 2014 second overall pick from the St. Louis Rams at the time, couldn't play the game. He just couldn't play. I think he's still in the league doing some stuff, but he's never turned out to be the player that you thought he would be. And he wasn't a guy that got hurt. And you can kind of say, yeah, underachieving. Underachieve and can't play kind of runs in with each other, but underachieve is somewhat of a you actually had a good season in the NFL and you just never lived back up to that billing. That's what underachieving means. So, but anywho, I just wanted to make this video just to kind of give people perspective on when the draft comes up, what to look for, what to see, and kind of more of if you're a person that wants to evaluate players on your own as well, this is the type of stuff that you have to think about as you're going through with everything that you do. This is how you become a scout. This is how you kind of look at certain stuff a little bit different than what people are telling you, and you make and form your own opinion. So I just thank y'all for watching. If you like this video, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe if you want to see more videos from me. I have plenty more coming out. Like I said, I'm a YouTube draft scout that try to do the best I can. I just try to do the best I can. So anyway, I thank you guys for watching. Once again, this is Draft Raw Authentic. Goodbye.